Hey, peace, world. Thanks for pressing play on another Pay Me No Mind video. That's Pay Me No Mind, sports and entertainment. Getting into some bite down boxing. I ain't got nobody else to talk through this with, so it is what it is. But the Spence fight reminds me of Stan. This Porter Spence fight reminds me of Eminem song Stan. I know that might be ironic or contrarian or whatever. A couple weeks ago, I was talking about Eminem, but in Stan, he says, "You got some issues, Stan. I think you need some counseling to help your ass from bouncing off the walls when you get down some. And what's this shit about us meant to be together? That type of shit'll make me not want us to meet each other." And he was just saying, some of the crazy stuff that this fan told him, and his, second thoughts, like, he asked him, how effed up is you? You know what I mean? And that's one of the sad things about boxing, man, when we do have these great moments, and we should all be literally like high-fiving each other that the sport really delivered. But here it is. And part of the problem with this is even though fights have decisions, boxing matches have decisions, there's no scoreboard. There's no, the basketball doesn't go through the hoop. The ball doesn't cross the goal line or go through the field goal uprights. It's all subjective. Tennis matches, they don't have that eye in the sky that says the ball was in or it touched the line. We're just on our own out here with our bias and with the subjectivity of the sport. And it's kind of frustrating. And I'm kind of sifting through, trying to get an idea where people are with the fight. And again, I'm like, some people's commentary, post-fight commentary, I'm like, for instance, my man Left, who helps me write on bitedownboxing.com. I asked him, well, what was the consensus at the party or the barbershop, wherever he watched the fight? And he said, well, they all said Spence, but it was just a bunch of Spence fans. That's why I say Stan. I'm referring to the song Stan. Left had Porter winning it. Okay, no big deal. I don't begrudge you for that. But if that's what we're leading with, well, only Spence fans saw Spence winning it, and then conversely, only Porter fans had Porter winning it. Where's the middle ground or the neutral ground? I had Spence winning it, at least 7-5, and a knockdown. Even if it's 6-6 and a knockdown, it would sway things in Spence's favor. But and I did not score this round by round. I didn't. I watched the fight twice, and this is another thing that kind of had me sitting back, wondering what's what. I just tweet, that I'm watching the fight a second time, and then I came back and I tweeted. I forgot that Keith Thurman said before the 6th round, when they cut away to the panel table or the panelist table, Keith Thurman said he had 5-0 in Porter's favor. And then Garcia adds on something about Spence's back being to the ropes the whole time, which was not true, which was just not the case. It just wasn't. Not 100% of the time. I don't even think 70 or 65% of the time, but that's neither here nor there. But I said, I just tweeted out, I forgot that Keith said that. So some cat, I think he's from Columbus, from down the road from me. I had never even heard from him before. But he said, well, that's how he replied, that's how he had it. And then I said, oh, okay, that's, cool, fair enough. That's your scorecard. And I said, I don't know how anybody can have it a clean sweep in either guy's favor to that point. I mean, the first 2 rounds were kind of, the first round and a half, I think, definitely the first round was somewhat of a filling out round, despite the fact Porter is in this fight and we know what he does. But I'm like, you know, I couldn't have a sweep either way. So then he comes back and says something, you know, laughing my LMAO that I'm questioning something, or that I would have thought to give Spence a round. You know, and I'm like, well, that's a bit strange. Like, you're laughing your ass off at me because I've considered giving Spence a round. Oh, but he told me, the last part of his tweet was, it was laughing his ass off that I even considered giving Spence a round. Then he said, hell, I thought Porter was getting ready to knock his ass out. So I replied, I'm tripping now. I'm bugging out because you're laughing your ass off at me for considering to give Spence one of those rounds. But then you actually thought, you seriously thought that Shawn Porter was going to knock Spence out, was getting ready to knock Spence out in less than 5? So this is why I'm talking about Stan. And this dude he's not a stan of mine or a fan of mine or a fan of BiteDownBoxing.com or anything. But I'm just like, this makes me kind of nervous to really interact with folks out here. Like, what are you talking about, bro? You really thought Porter was going to knock this man out? Okay. So, yeah, I'm just sitting back like, you know, and I did a write-up for the page. I got up the next morning, you know, and put my write-up, my recap out on BiteDownBoxing.com. But again, is that how we're doing this? It's almost like I don't like the hype and the favor. Oh, let me go all the way back. I'm at Barclays. I'm not name dropping here. I paid my way. I got approved to go to a fight. I get there. We get an email. One of the special attractions is we're gonna have a special engagement with world contender Errol Spence Jr. We're gonna bring him in for a media engagement or whatever. I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, personally, I like to watch the entire fight card, so I'm a little uneasy that I got to go back here away from the fights and go in here and not miss what could happen or what could be said with Spence. So anyway, Spence talks, you know, I think this is the second time that they done this with him. There was another fight I was there with. But then on this particular one, I believe he had the fight signed to go over to the UK to face Brooke. And he said his piece and whatnot. A couple of us asked questions and whatnot. Blah, blah, blah. But then the weird thing to me at that time, a New Jack, Green, I don't know if it was Espinosa or it was DeBella. But one of them, as Errol Spence gets up to make his way down from the stage or the podium, the stage that they put in there in the interview room, they start clapping. They start clapping for Errol and wishing him well in his voyage, east across the Atlantic. And everybody's clapping. All the media people start clapping, and I'm like on some Prince Hakeem stuff. Yeah. What is this? I'm bugging out a little. I guess this is customary. Okay. Good luck, bro. I mean, okay. So it was like Spence was our guy. Collectively, he was our guy. Okay, now we fast forward from that moment. He gets that belt, and then, like he said, the tables have turned. And it's almost like that Jay-Z line, like you get some money and you're not poor anymore and people don't like you anymore, And now it's all these questions and it's some hatred, some disdain and whatnot against Spence because he's going places and because they're putting, his eggs in their basket in terms of who they're going to run with marketing and making fights and whatnot. So I'm like, yeah, the tables have turned. Here was a guy that everybody just stood up and applauded as he exited the room. And now, you know, a year and a half later, after he's had some success, and you know, now is ways to take him apart and tear him down. And okay. And I'm wondering with some of the scores that I saw from some of the media. I mean, I saw Douglas Fisher had it a couple of rounds in Porter's favor. I believe he was at the fight. Okay. But some of the stuff that I'm watching, I'm wondering, are some people finding a way to give Porter rounds because they know that the Spence-Crawford fight is unlikely to be made. So I'm finding a way to give these rounds to Porter. So that's just where I'm looking at it. This is weird, man. This. Let me get back to college basketball or something with the scoreboard. This stuff with judging is weird. The hazard card was a bit weird to me. You know, say what you want, like who you want, man. I felt like Spence landed the bigger shots more consistently. I felt like I thought he showed some defensive stuff and you know, ducking shots, making Shawn miss. I thought to me, again, I'll say it again, I don't feel that he was made to fight Shawn Porter. And this is subjective on my behalf. But my perception of it, I didn't see a guy who was made to fight Porter's fight. I felt like he fought the way he wanted to fight, and he was comfortable doing it. He accepted the shots that he caught. Porter couldn't hurt the man, I think, was one thing that he found out early and said, I'm going to stand in here and get into this close quarter combat with you. No problem. In fact, I'm going to do that because I believe doing that will give me the best chance to land a shot to knock you out, like I said I was going to do. So then we get the knockdown in the 11th. You know, real G stuff from Porter. You know, get out of my way, Reese. Let me get back to work. All of that. 12th round, loved all of that too. Like I said, it was a very well fought fight. I have nothing to say to marginalize anything that Shawn Porter did. I'm not talking about his trunks being high. I'm not talking about no headbutting. You want to get on Arrow for the number of low blows that he had? I mean, okay. I heard Reese do an interview after the fight. He said he didn't want to over officiate this particular fight because of the magnitude of it. He said both guys fought hard. He said there were some infractions, but unintentional. You know, he felt like they were unintentional. He just said with these two guys, it's a little bit of animosity. There's some animosity and some angst there. It's the competitive spirit, but there was nothing, quote unquote, lack of a better word, there was nothing below the belt. There was nothing malicious or anything. So he felt, don't let me over officiate. And I thought he did a pretty solid job. I said this again on my prediction comment for the roundbyroundboxing.com piece. I said that Porter's best, his 100%, just might not be better than Errol Spence Jr.'s 100%. I'm not even going, like I said, I'm not even talking through X's and O's and technique and strengths, weaknesses, pros, cons, none of that. Just his 100%. If he comes in the ring at 100%, fully healthy, fight ready, ready to go, it just might not be enough to beat the man across the ring this particular time. And that's kind of where I was, man. Again, and then with Keith Thurman and Danny Garcia giving their scorecards, and then for Keith Thurman to come out and say, well, I beat Porter in more convincing fashion. Again, just like presidents, the complaint against presidents, are you governing and leading, or are you campaigning while you're in office? And are you calling the fight? Are you really being objective and calling the fight? Or are you a guy who just lost, can't get a rematch after losing your belt, and now I'm stirring the coffee a little bit and protecting myself and my marketability, and I'm not gonna give any credit to Spence. So I'm just casually throwing it out there that you're down 0-5. Really? Really? He was down 0-5? Come on, bro. So again, it's this type of shit that make me not want to be not to meet each other. So like I said, man, it's unfortunate because it was a great night for boxing. If you want to say it was a bit anticlimactic with the Danny Garcia being named as the late January opponent for Spence, whatever, okay. I don't know, man. That's just where I am. Like I said, I just had to talk and get my thoughts out there. That's what I do here. Feel free to pay me no mind. Feel free to subscribe. Feel free to hit the like button and all so on and so forth. But I can't say that we got to do better. Like I said, man, and it continues, just like with politics, it continues to baffle me that people have a strong reaction to people having a different opinion than them. We all watch the fight and come away with what we come away with. Whether or not we let our bias affect us or not, that's a kind of a separate story. But just because somebody says that they had to fight another way, that's not them throwing shots at you and we need to bark at each other. It's just, here's my opinion, bro. That's what I saw. Oh, you saw it that way? Oh, okay, good, man. Next time, the fight is at your house. Can't go do nothing after the fight because as late as they start. But it's a number of different ways to handle here. Thanks for coming over and investing in the fight. I appreciate that. But you had it his way. The energy with people is just bugged out, man. And this is one of the, like I said, I know I'm getting away from my overall point here, but it's a disservice to the effort that we just saw in closing. It's a disservice to the effort and the competitive spirit and the fight that we just saw from those two people, from those two men, those two combatants. Excellent night from Shawn Porter. MVP of the night, in my opinion, is Kenny Porter, who had an outstanding night, in my opinion, as a chief second. Remaining calm, giving excellent communication and instruction, and being in the moment and being cognizant of everything that's going on and talking to his fighter and helping him to navigate through some things. Phenomenal job by the Porters. And then again, both men kept it clean. Like when I go back to my job on Monday, this is the type of fight that unfortunately nobody ever comes up to me and says, "Wow, that was a hell of a fight." That's the good aspects of boxing. It never happens. But when it's some BS, the Tyson Fury situation, then somebody is at my desk talking about why didn't that cut stop the fight? Or if Shakur Stevenson blasts out some dude in 2.5 rounds who didn't deserve to be in there, why was that so one-sided? The critical stuff, somebody always comes to me. But when boxing has its best moments, nobody comes to me. So this was one of those moments where I would have been sitting there, that meme that Caleb Plant uses a lot, with the table, the lemonade stand or whatever, or the yard sale sign, and the dude sitting there with his feet kicked up. This weekend, I would have been sitting there with my feet up on my desk like, come holler at me. What you want to say? What you want to talk about boxing? We shining right now. But anyway, man, that's all I had to say, which was quite a bit as usual. Again, man, You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. Bite down boxing. Don't let them count you out. Plenty coming this weekend with the Shields historic moment. I will be up in Flint Friday trying to catch the weigh-in, and then Saturday night with the fights, trying to get as much coverage as I can, on my own. So again, peace, man. I'm out. One.